When the bad guys really, really want information from a target, they pull out some really interesting tricks.
Hey Matt, I heard you have a story about the LuckyMouse APT group and some interesting tactics that they've been using.
Yeah, so this is a really cool one. I like these very advanced hacking technique stories, and this is one that Kaspersky put out. There's an APT group called LuckyMouse. They had looked at some of the malware that's being used by the group for a very specific campaign. The campaign is to sort of get a listener inside of a government agency somewhere in Asia. They weren't specific, but also tied to a very high-profile meeting. So this kind of very specific, very targeted thing, you'd think maybe they might bring out some of their more interesting tricks because they absolutely have to have access to this intelligence. And they absolutely did. Some of these techniques included using drivers that were signed with a legitimate certificate from a real-world company that they must have stolen somehow. They also used malware that was, we would call it fileless, where portions of it are stored in the registry as opposed to as a binary on disk, which makes it harder to detect typically. But not only that, it's like a network driver filter. So any RDP traffic that's going through it to the C2 gets modified on its way out of this driver. It gets the C2 injected into it, which is wild. So like this is all happening in memory, and if there's, it looks like RDP traffic as it's leaving the machine, and then it hits this filter, and now it's C2 as well, which is crazy. It's also injecting another Trojan, like the full Trojan, into the LSAS process, which is the Local Security Authority subsystem, which is running on every Windows box. Right. Kind of has to be there. Right. And of course, if you want to hide, your malware, if you want to inject into another process, that's a good one, because everyone will be like, well, that's supposed to be there too. So they're using a lot of interesting tricks to make it look like they belong on the system, to hide the fact that the C2 even exists, and to hide the fact that they are anything other than a very normal piece of software.
I think one of the interesting things I saw about this one is that a lot of the code looks like it's got some ports it hasn't used yet. There's even test code, like this is like version 1.
The article mentioned that the code itself, there was a lot of tests, it was an incomplete code. Maybe that's an indication that there was a short period of time and they had to throw something together really quickly. So if this is the under development version, I can't imagine what the...
yeah, right. And who's developing this?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, really interesting. They include all the indicators. So if you care to go and look for it on your own network, go ahead and do it. But my money is on this is being used in a very, very small subset of places.
It's very highly targeted.
That's what I think, yeah.
Okay. So they saved their really sophisticated tool for this one operation, I guess.
I think that's generally how it goes, yeah. It's significant because the attacker clearly wanted the information about the event that they were targeting, and they were willing to burn some of their more advanced techniques in order to get it. Yeah. I mean, if you can get into the network without having to blow all your really cool tricks, you'll do that first, but if you don't get caught, maybe maybe if you do get caught the first time in, you'll go ahead and you'll use the more advanced stuff. Or if you absolutely have to get it and you cannot be detected, that's when you start using the really cool tricks.
Right. So I thought I remember saw something briefly about them using packaging together, some existing tools that are easily available with, writing their own
Yeah,
tools.
That's true. And they also used a proxy tool called Earthworm. So the tool itself apparently works very well on a local LAN, but isn't able to really get out of that network.
Right.
So they're using this Earthworm tool, which I hadn't heard of before today, as a way to sort of tunnel the traffic to the actual C2.
Right.
So yeah, it's a couple different components like that, and yeah. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting is that, like you said, it's very targeted. It seems to be targeted to a certain part of the world, and the fact that this is already so well written, and that they're looking at the next iteration just tells you what people are going to be capable of down the road.
Most organizations and most of us are not going to face a threat this sophisticated, but it's more that whatever we see happening today in a few years from now may become more commonplace. So it's something for us to protect ourselves against in the future.